Hello everybody, my name is Emily and welcome to the Goldberry Artisans Knitting Podcast. I run a blog and a little Etsy shop over at goldberryartisans.com, and I decided that I wanted to start podcasting. I realized that I often watch from the outside of the knitting community. I like pictures on Instagram, I follow different designers, I might talk about some stuff on my blog, but I don't always actively participate as much as I would like to get engaged in this amazing community that we have. So I thought that a knitting podcast would be a good way to connect with other knitters, since I really don't know many in my area. I thought that a podcast would be a good way to get to know some people better. So just a little bit about me. Like I said, my name's Emily. I am a 20-year-old college student. I currently go to community college and I live at home, and I'm working at Dunkin' Donuts. Super exciting. And I live in Maine. Obviously, I don't live that far south if I work at a Dunkin' Donuts. So, here I am. Today I'm filming outside. I'm actually behind my church. I live next door because my father's the pastor. And I thought about podcasting for a while, but I didn't really know where to film because I have 8 siblings. So there's always a lot of stuff going on in the house. Never really a quiet corner. But I figured while the weather's nice, I'll take advantage of it and film outside. So my goal for this podcast, at this point I'll probably be podcasting maybe once a month. We'll see how it goes. And I just want to share, what I'm working on, what I'm loving right now, knitting related and otherwise. But also, a lot of podcasters I watch, I love so many podcasts. But they're fully grown adults who have jobs or are retired and are able to spend money on beautiful yarns and patterns. And while I am occasionally able to splurge on really nice yarns and things, inexpensive yarns, I can't do that all the time. Obviously, I'm a college student going to community college, working at Dunkin' Donuts. I don't have much money. I have time to knit, but not money to buy all the fancy things that can go along with it. So I want to be talking about maybe some of the yarns that I'm using that might not be the high quality, high end yarns, but are still good yarns that I get, And so that's one thing that I'm going to be talking about, is just using what you have instead of always feeling like you have to spend $30 on a skein of hand-dyed yarn, which is gorgeous and I wish I could do that, but not all of us can do that all the time. So, with that over with, I am going to start out by showing you my works in progress. So, one thing I'm working on right now is a pair of socks. These are just plain vanilla toe-up socks. Let's see, I'll hold that a little closer. I just started doing the heel. I don't know what the technical name for it is. It's the wrap and turn heel. That's what I call it. I don't really know. The yarn is from West Yorkshire Spinners. I actually received this yarn I participated in a swap that Melody of Bee Mandarines had a little while ago. My package is ready to send out. It's almost done. But I was paired up with a woman who lives in England, and so she sent me West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, so it's so cool, which I love. I'm not sure how much it would cost normally. Plus, if you're ordering it from England, there'd be shipping. But this is my one and only double-pointed needle holder that I buy. I love it. I'm thinking I need to brush up on my sewing skills to make myself some more. If you can see the tag, my camera doesn't like to autofocus, so we'll just play around with that. tag is from Wonderwool Designs, an Etsy shop. I believe she's based in Australia, but her shipping rates were really reasonable, which was nice. So I'm working on that. And I have my nice giant basket here of knitting goodies. I'm also working on a pair of fingerless gloves. The pattern is called, here, actually I have one finished, I'll show you that one. The pattern is called Antiquity. Now I call these are like my super main gloves. My super main. They're called the Antiquity Mitts. It was designed by Alicia Plummer, who is a knitting designer who lives in Maine. And it's knit using Quince & Co., which is a Maine-based yarn company. Plus the colorway, it's Quince & Co. Chickadee. Did I write it down? Was I good like that? Cypress is the colorway. But so they're designed by a Mainer. Yarn is from a Maine company. The knitting needles I actually purchased at a local craft show here in Maine, and the color reminds me of pine trees. So, which are all over the place. You can see behind me lots and lots of pine trees. I'm also working on, now I'm not entirely sure how to say this, Bloom, it's like bloom but with one L, shawl by Melody of Bee Mandarines. It's beautiful. I love, it's so simple. I'm taking a summer class at college right now, and my professor lets me knit during class, so I've gotten a lot done on this so far this summer. It has beautiful little, it has an eyelet pattern. And then it has like these little flower stitch sections, you can see right here. The yarn, it's a hand-dyed yarn. I bought it on sale. You can tell where I switched skeins because the second skein had some sections that are darker, and then the rest of it probably should have alternated, but I was knitting during class, so I didn't think of that. The yarn, oh, I have the tag in here. Haha. The yarn is from Boho Chic Fiber Co. It's 75% Corriedale wool, 25% nylon. So I got it on sale, bohochicfiberco.com. It says it's originally $18. I think I got it for $9 a skein for 315 yards. So that was a really good deal. And it's soft, not like super fake acrylic soft, but it'll be nice and warm. And it's such a perfect color for spring. And, well, I guess it's not spring anymore. Summer. It's just starting to finally be consistently warm here, so I'm getting my seasons mixed up. But it's a beautiful coral color, perfect for summertime knitting. I'm almost done. I have one row left, I believe, or maybe just a couple rows left. But I need to do like a lifeline so I can see how big it is, because for me, for shawls, I've recently gotten into shawl knitting, and I like it because you get the fun of making a bigger garment without the time and amount of yarn required for a sweater. But I don't like to fiddle with them. I'm not even much of like a normal scarf person. I like cowls because you just put them on and leave them alone. So I'm thinking I either want like something really small, like a small shawl that I can just tie together in the back, or a really, really big, comfy, cozy one. So I'm gonna see how big this is, and then I might see how I can style it, and then I might wear it, or I might knit a few more repeats of the pattern. So I'll keep you updated on that as I go, especially since, I don't know about those of us who are a bit larger on top than others, I guess. Some people can pull off having like a whole shawl like this just sitting on, like just sitting like this. But I know that for me, I don't really like that, how that looks. So I like to have something that I can wrap around behind and pull it together in the front, or something that's really small around my neck. So we'll see how that goes. I still have quite a bit of yarn left. As you can see, I knit most of the shawl using just that one skein. Just changed it here. So I'll have plenty more. And then, this is my biggest work in progress right now, is the Sabella Cardigan by Carrie Bostic Hogue, knitting it with Knit Picks palette and the Iris Heather colorway. I believe Knit Picks often, they routinely have sales. They have a big sale right now. So I just bought some more yarn the other day. But they had it on sale. And I still have quite a bit left. My gauge was a bit tight. So we'll see. All I have left, I have to sew up the sleeve. It was seamless from the bottom up. This is the first time I've done a seamless sweater, and it was really nice. But I still had to do the sleeves. I've sewn up one sleeve, almost. I don't really know how to do the underarm holes. Still have a little hole on this one. Don't really know how to do it without it looking bulky, or if that's supposed to be the way that it looks. I'm not really sure. It turned out a little small. I'll try it on. Although, since that sleeve is not sewn up. With very tight sleeves. I'm hoping that I can block this to be a little looser. And so the button bands, so I did the button bands the other day. I'm thinking, since it's a bit small, I'll probably be wearing it unbuttoned a lot, but I do that with cardigans anyway. So I'll set up a little bit so you can see what it looks like. It's a beautiful pattern. We drove down to Pennsylvania for my sister's college graduation last month, and so I got a lot of knitting done on it then. But I'm still trying to decide what kind of buttons I want. I know I want wooden buttons. I don't really know what kind yet, so if you have any recommendations, especially like little small businesses maybe, where I should get buttons, that'd be fantastic. And I still have to block it because it has this beautiful pattern on the top. So it was stockinette, which got incredibly boring sometimes. But it's got this beautiful pattern on top, but I need to block it out. But I share a room with my older sister, and so I can't just lay things out to block them, so we'll see how that goes. I'm really bad at finishing things. I get really close, and then I just don't bother to block it or finish weaving in the ends or whatever. Oops. As you can see by the one thing that I have completely finished, except for weaving in the ends, lately was a pair of just plain socks, plain vanilla socks, knit in Bergère. Don't know how to say it. It's French yarn company. I bought it on sale from paradisefibers.com. And this is honestly, I've been knitting since I was 10 years old. This is my first plain vanilla sock. Because I have a couple in here that I finished a while ago. I was taking pictures of them. I like to have some sort of pattern going on in this sock. Even if it's just a simple one like this, just a little like clover eyelet pattern. I like to have something going on, but for these ones, I figured the yarn would look really nice just on its own. So I did toe up. This is one of my first pairs of toe up socks. I recently just learned how to make toe up socks, and I love it. That's why the socks that I'm working on right now are toe up. I like being able to try them on as I go. And you get less funny looks from people if I'm knitting in public, and people say, oh, what are you making? And if you hold up something that just looks like a tube and say a sock, and they go, oh. But, yeah, so I did toe up. Now, I learned how to do the toe up socks. I forgot to bring it over with me. I'm kicking myself. Knit Picks has a little kind of a booklet called Socktacular, and they include instructions for a variety of different cuffs, toes, heels, and then stitch patterns, and instructions for both cuff down and toe up socks. I actually have a couple of the socks just to show you that I've made from that book. So this was the first one. So these were toe up. No, these ones were cuff down. I did the peacoat. Again, I read a lot, so I read a lot of words, and then I realize I don't know how to say them out loud. But the nice little cuff there, eyelet pattern, and then a standard, like a standard, I don't know what the heel is called, but a normal gusset heel. Gusset decreases down to a round toe. And then for the next pair, I found a different stitch pattern that I wanted to use, and these ones were toe up. So I cast on, started with 10 stitches, increased to 64, and then I have like a cute little triangle pattern all the way up, and I did a wrap and turn heel. I like it because I don't have to think about gusset increases or decreases. I can just go, and once it's long enough, just do the heel and keep going. So it's a lot faster for me, and then I don't have to bother with picking up stitches. So, and then continue the triangle pattern. If I went with this again, the way that I lined it up with the gusset, if you can tell, it didn't line up with where the heel ended and quite where the triangles began. Ooh, focus. No, my camera's freaking out now. Okay. But it didn't quite start at the end of the rectangles. Also, they're not triangles, they're diamonds. I keep calling them triangles. It's a diamond pattern. Anyway, but if I went with the same stitch pattern again, I would adjust it a little bit. And both of these were knit using Knit Picks Stroll. You can tell I like Knit Picks yarns a lot. They're really good quality, I find, and they do have a lot of sales, so you can get, because I think Stroll the skeins come in maybe like 230 yards for fingering weight, but that's good. It's good for color work too. And you can buy slightly smaller skeins for color work socks, which are always fun. So that's what I have been working on. So I know I mentioned Knit Picks Socktacular. So now I'm gonna tell you just about a few books that I've enjoyed lately. Knit Picks Socktacular is definitely one of them. I'd highly recommend it if you're interested in learning about just maybe designing your own socks a little bit more, customizing your socks, and I believe it's originally $10, but again, they often have sales on their books. So I got it for cheaper than that. Another one I forgot to bring with me is the Making Magazine, or Making Zine by Carrie Bostic-Hogue, and it's beautiful. I'm sure if you follow many knitters on Instagram, I'm sure you've heard people talking about it. But it's so gorgeous. There's so many amazing patterns, and it includes things like embroidery and cross stitch and flower crowns and things beyond just knitting. And the photography, of course, is beautiful. It might be it could be a little out of your price range. I don't remember how much it is per issue. I got it. Carrie had a discount code for her Instagram followers to pre-order, and so that's how I get mine. But there's a lace sweater pattern in there. It's a short sleeve lace pattern with, I think it's mostly stockinette, but there is like a florally stitched pattern down the front. And I had purchased yarn to knit a different lace sweater, but I'm thinking I might switch over to that one, or I might buy more yarn. We will see. Haven't decided yet. Because so those are two knitting books that I've been enjoying lately. And did I bring them with me? And then just another completely unrelated book. I've recently discovered Louise Penny, her mystery novels. I love Agatha Christie's books. I started reading those a few years ago. And these have, so Louise Penny, if you like Agatha Christie, you'll like her books. She has really good mysteries, and they're suspenseful, but she uses the mystery not as the focal point, but as the backdrop to exploring human nature and the psychology behind both people committing crimes and the people solving them, and just a lot more character development, not just with the characters who are in her series and the recurring characters, but also the people in the town where the murder was committed and things like that, and the other people in the police force. So I highly recommend, if you like mysteries, I highly recommend. So far I've only read A Trick of the Light, read that in just a couple of days, and then this one is Bury Your Dead. I just started it yesterday. Started this morning. So now we'll move on to acquisitions. Hello again. I forgot to mention my camera only records in 20-minute segments and I lost track of the time. So, this yarn, so Quince & Co., I was telling you before my camera cut out, Quince & Co. Finch, 100% wool. This is the Storm colorway and this is the Finch colorway. I bought it to knit a waiting, I don't remember if it's waiting for rain or waiting in rain. I think it's waiting for rain shawl by Sylvia Plath. And the main shawl, the one that you see when you first go on the pattern page on Ravelry, is knit in a solid color, but I looked through some of the projects that people have done and they had two colors because basically it's a shawl and there's garter stitch sections. The main body is in garter stitch, but there are these lace panel sections that it doesn't even go all the way across the shawl. It'll just appear at different places. And so I think I'm going to use the dark gray for the main garter stitch sections and the light gray for the lace panels. So, actually, can you believe it? I've only started using Quince & Co. within the past few months. Again, they are very cost, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not that expensive for the amount of yarn and the quality of yarn that you get. Like one of these, 221 yards. It's a really good deal. I think maybe $8 or $9 a skein, but I just wasn't able to purchase that much yarn from them. But I did find some, like the yarn the chickadee that I'm using for these mitts, I bought on a Ravelry D-Stash page. You can often find some good yarns. That's where I found a lot of good deals. It's just going on that yarns page and searching through the D-Stash. You could often find it for maybe like even $1 cheaper, or people sometimes if they have 2 or 3 skeins, it'll be cheaper than if you just buy one. So that it is another good place to find less expensive yarn. But anyway, so I bought that. I've been on a shawl kick lately. I just started knitting shawls a couple months ago, and the Bloom shawl is my fourth shawl in just a few months. So I'm loving it. Oh, funny story I have. Well, I was talking about, I mentioned Carrie Bostic Hogue a few times with the Cardigan and her Making magazine. So last year, on Memorial Day, I almost met her. I almost met Carrie Bostic Hogue. We were, she lives in Maine, if you didn't know. And my family and I, on Memorial Day last year, we went to a park in Freeport, Maine, which is where L.L. Bean is located, their headquarters, their big store. And we were playing at a park. And the only people there, it was my family, and there's 11 of us, so there were a lot of us. And then this other family, there was a couple sitting over on the bench, and they had a little baby in a car seat next to them, and then another little girl playing on the playground. So I thought the woman looked vaguely familiar, but I was about to go up to her and be like, hey, you look kind of familiar. Do I know you? That's just not me. So they sat there for a while, and then I heard either the man or the woman say, Imogen, it's time to go. And the little girl went running by me. And I said, that little girl, I know her. I know that little girl. In the name Imogen, there's not many people with that name. So all of a sudden, I put it together. That was Carrie Bostic Hogue. She had just had her second daughter not that long ago. I'd seen it on Instagram or her blog or somewhere. And her daughter Imogen models a lot of her children's items. Mind blown! I realized as they walked away who she was. Not that I probably would have introduced myself if I had known, because it just would seem a little weird. And she would have absolutely no reason to know who I was. But, so that was my opportunity, my missed opportunity. I almost met Carrie Bostic Hogue, which is sad that I missed her. But anyway, that's my famous person sighting, my famous knitter sighting. And I realized I had no idea about this when I started knitting, or even until a couple years ago, how many knitters and like famous knitting designers there are in Maine. Like we have Carrie Bostic Hogue, Alicia Plumber, Hannah Fettig from Knitbot, Mary Jane Mucklestone. There's somebody else I was thinking of. But I mean Pam Allen, Quince & Co., twig and horn. There's a lot of fiber activity going on in Maine, but I just don't know any of them. So, yeah. So, those are some, yeah, so, transitions are not my thing. There's been a couple podcasts that I've been really enjoying lately, and I thought I would recommend to you. And the first one is the Legacy Knits, that's Knits with a Z, podcast on YouTube. It is a mother Sue and a daughter named Chelsea, and they're so funny. Oh my goodness. Sue knits and does cross stitch and even a little bit of rug picking sometimes, and her daughter Chelsea just started knitting a couple years ago. But I always love seeing they have the most beautiful yarns and all the cool projects that they're working on. Sometimes their episodes can run a bit long. I don't think there's many that are under an hour, but it's a lot of fun to watch, and sometimes, you can pause it and keep watching it later. So they're absolutely hilarious. And Sue Periscopes, if you're into Periscope, she normally does it on weekday mornings. Her username is Knit24. So if you're into Periscope, those are always fun. And then another podcast, and also Chelsea was the one the other day who, she was also talking about how shawls, she either likes them to be really small or really big, comfy, cozy ones. And I was thinking, yes, somebody else who understands, because shawls are a really big thing right now. It seems like everyone's designing them and knitting them, but I don't wear them all that often unless they're really big and cozy, almost like a small blanket. So, yeah. And then another podcast is, let me make sure I have the name right, Sweet Sparrow Knits with Julie, who is known as Julie Rose Sews on Instagram. And Sweet Sparrow Knits is just it's a fun podcast. She shows different projects she's working on, and also her yarns. She has an Etsy shop called Sweet Sparrow Yarns, and she has the most beautiful colorways. I love the look of all these funky hand-dyed yarns, bright colors, speckles, stripes, but that's not really my thing. This is about as wild and crazy as I get when it comes to stripes. But her yarns, some are more semi-solid, some have different colors, but they're all like pastel colors or more muted tones, which are beautiful. So I'll make sure to link to her in the show notes. Sweet Sparrow Yarns and her podcast, Sweet Sparrow Knits. And she's only, at this point, she just released her 5th episode yesterday, or this week, I believe. So it's always, I know that I like to get in on the beginning of a smaller podcast, just because, there's less episodes to catch up on. You can get to know them from the beginning. So I'd encourage you to check out both Legacy Knits and Sweet Sparrow Knits. And then I just had one other thing that I want to talk about, is this whole idea of enjoying what you have instead of constantly wanting more. Basically just being content with what you have. Because it's so easy to just be buying new things, or to be envious of people who have those new things, instead of appreciating what you do have in life, but also specifically knitting. I never used to think of myself as a person who, I was kind of used to make fun of people who would say that they did, retail therapy, shopping, if they were upset or depressed or angry, they'd go shopping. But then I recently realized, now that, I'm older, I have a job, I have money, I can go drive myself to the store and buy things, that I do that. So sometimes if I'm just sort of stressed out, I'll shop. And even if I don't go somewhere, then I will go online and buy yarn. And I love yarn, and I love having more yarn, but I don't use it all, or I spend more money than I should. And then I end up with just all this yarn that I have no immediate plans to use. And it's just, these thoughts obviously are not fully formed in my mind. But just this idea that I need to be grateful for what I do have rather than always wanting more. And I'm not, because Felicia over at the Craft Sessions blog has a series that she's been doing for the past several months called Stash Less. She's both a knitter and a sewer, and so she's just basically been talking about using the stash that she has instead of buying more yarn or buying more fabric, because sometimes we do that if we don't have time to create. We buy more to kind of still get that little rush of enjoyment that we get from creating things. But really, we should be focusing on using what we have and making time to create instead of making time to shop. So I just putting that out there, just this whole, that's also what I want to be talking about in this podcast, because I don't have a very big stash. I've actually recently gotten rid of a lot of yarn that I received when I started knitting or when I was younger, that just cheap, low quality yarn that I hung on to just in case, but I'm never going to use it. So I don't have a giant stash, so I'm still going to be buying yarn for bigger projects. I have a lot of one skein amounts, like small amounts of yarn. But just this idea of being content with what we have and being okay with that, not comparing ourselves to other people, which is part of why I wanted to start this podcast as well, because it's something I've thought about doing for a long time, but I've looked at other people's podcasts, watched other people, follow other blogs, and if only I could be as funny as them, or have somebody else to podcast with, or if I had more yarn, it would be more interesting. If I had more interesting projects, it would be a better podcast. But I finally just decided that I need to go for it. If I want to start a podcast, I can start a podcast. I don't have to have a beautiful scenery behind me, only knit with hand-dyed yarn or American-based yarn, to just be happy with where I am right now and realize I'm not those other people. I am myself. And I can only control what I do and what I buy, what I make, and that I need to learn to be content with that. So that's all for today. If you have any thoughts about that whole idea of contentment and enjoying what you have and creating with what you have rather than always looking to other places and other people and things for that contentment and happiness. And so thank you for watching this podcast. My camera is telling me that it has a low battery, so I'm going to go. And you can check out show notes at goldberryartisans.com. I'll have links to everything that I talked about today. So until next time, happy knitting. Bye.